happens over here.
Good night. Sorry for the little. We late now. You know, we get in the house. We late. We just
Imagine people always late, Jigga. What happens to you? We late.
We late.
listen.
Yes,
We in the
it's
program.
after
I will
7
not
p.m.
prepare the show. When you have leaders in the house, we got to make sure. Only one thing, Pat, to forget to put the red carpet. God don't tell him when you see how those leaders come in, you have to put the red carpet. He forget to put it. But you know, how Patu is. Patu always forgetting what he's not supposed to forget. But in between, guys, conversation tonight. Gerald in the house, my co-host. My co-host
Mhm.
in the house and with me, no stranger, no radio because you know, big lady. I don't tell our people she nickname what we call her now because after the show,
Yeah, well, get me in trouble
after the show, she
again.
get a nickname. So we're gonna leave that for the 11, the January 11. We're gonna be in the house, and then we're gonna start to count votes. We can't know for the moment who's gonna be prime minister, but we know who's going Holland. So guys, my co-host Mrs. Jeanette Boira Gumbs with me tonight.
Oh,
Yes, I come into it. I
two
come
nights
in.
in a row.
I come into it. I
Okay.
come into it. I have to get
Okay.
custom because when you see those names going people belong, so I have to you have mentally you have to train to
There's
know.
there's no difference in length between my name and your name, you know.
My name no
Okay.
longer. I can't
Okay.
look my name. Will-
Oh,
I don't have no M. I have you and
okay.
S. So how you, Mrs. Combs?
Hi.
Jaguar. You see actually.
I am doing great.
Mhm.
How are you?
I
You
I
sure?
good, yes.
Mm.
I was in town today. We went see who got money, who ain't got no money for the campaign.
I hope they're walking around with a list to make sure you could vote that
Listen,
time, you know.
listen. In this election, you know who have money and who don't have the money.
Mm.
Okay, you don't see that. You see small candidate and big candidate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
we
tonight
seen the
we
difference.
have heavy candidates in the house. We have heavy people in the house because these people, when especially this leader in the parliament, when she opened she up, I think the building shake.
All
And
the
that's why you
time.
see they don't want to build a new back parliament building. So tonight I have no stranger to youth radio, no stranger conversation because last year, almost the same
Yeah.
period we were there. So tonight we have MP Gums Melissa in the house,
Yes.
leader of PFP party,
Yes.
number uno, number one. You have
Yes.
to
Good
be number
evening.
one because
Numéro
you know
un.
numero un. Okay. I don't come with the French, it's just like I got a feeling I don't know if you went French Quarter. Because you tell me, oh, you from French Quarter, but you look
How you mean I
I don't
passed
go
French
French Quarter
Quarter twice today?
twice today, but I
Twice.
of you every day.
Yeah.
How much
Yeah.
thing for PFP you
Like
see
how
up
did I
here?
say it?
Hey, listen, when you're walking, let me go down continue. I was say when you're driving French Quarter,
Mhm.
you don't need to go far. You don't see PFP.
You
Oh
don't see
yeah.
BFB.
I ain't put up nothing. So.
No,
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
cannot put, but
But we still have somebody on the friend side report.
listen, don't say nothing before they
Okay.
say we don't
Okay.
you tell to bueno. But when you're driving, I don't put I, but you see things driving with big PFP in it.
Nah.
So, MP, how are you?
I'm good.
Good, good, good.
Tired.
Ready,
But
ready?
yeah, yeah.
We see you. You're
Looking
tired
forward
now.
to the holidays.
Because sometimes they come like I feel tonight, hey, that the last battle now.
Nah.
That the last one?
No, we taking a little 2 day rest next week, and then then the real battle starts.
Okay then. So how campaign going?
It's going
Like your
okay now.
second campaign,
Yeah.
and
It's interesting, but it's been good so far. A lot of positive feedback. You know, we're a party that we're preparing for a year for this. Just getting our candidates ready, to be able to come on the radio and talk sense. To be able to be out there and meet the people, and share their vision and our vision for the country, to the wider audience. Yeah, and now we in the trenches. It's been interesting. It
so
seems every time we if I say A today, tomorrow somebody else gonna say the same A,
yeah.
just worse.
Boot
But-
camp, then boot camp.
So you know something when you're young, you could say something and somebody else, but she or she young, they don't know, and they take the same thing and say the same.
Yeah, same way.
So MP, before I go to the big fella next to you, maybe so between we know, 10 candidates. Why
Yeah.
10 candidates?
We always stuck on quality over quantity. I think the first time around we ran with 8. We could have at the time had 12 or so, depending on everybody who approached us. But for us, it's a vetting process that we have to put them through. It's not like in Holland. In Holland, you go through, they do a background check and everything via a special agency and such before you even get on the list. But here, we just have to have a face-to-face conversation,
Okay.
sometimes several, and just kind of try to get at the character of people. Because I think if we look at how our political history has gone, character has mattered more than even education for many of the politicians that we've had. If they had been maybe a better character, we wouldn't be in a situation we're in right now.
So we see that your second election, and you and MP Peterson, how I say it's just like when you guys talk in a building, like most you feel like, okay, we're gonna answer or we're not answering.
I think we set out 2 seats in opposition.
Mhm.
We knew we had a job to do, and we tried to define ourselves as a good opposition. Try to hold government accountable, question them, which is the most important task of parliament, is to hold the government accountable. Pressure them when pressure needs to be applied. Try to see for the good of the country what you can agree with and move forward with, and don't just oppose for opposing sake. And I think in my closing remarks when we were closing the parliamentary year out in September, I said, like, you're welcome to everybody for not being the type of opposition that they have been, because the calls have been coming since 2020. Oh, you want to drop this government? You want to drop this government?
Okay.
Even citizens coming and saying, if ever a government had to fall, it's this one. Why are you waiting on? And I'm like, he wants stability. So here it is. And 4 years later, now, I could say, well, stability, but at what cost?
Yeah.
You
So
understand?
guys, yes, I have to question the MP because when you watch manifesto, you watch what PFP proposing, you ask yourself, these guys they didn't do these things in 6 months. And before the show, we were talking about it because when you listen to candidates from PFP, for those we don't have here, it's just like I say, it's just like the leader of the party. I ain't say no name. Put them in a home and say, listen, this, and we're going this. I don't know if you're a teacher, but you have people in your. But 10 candidates.
Only no realization for your cats and man. Only no realizing it. Okay.
Government stability, because we see the outgoing prime minister saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Stability. You guys today, the country move forward in those 4 years. 4 years? Yeah,
Yeah.
4 years. For you as member of opposition, do you feel the country move somewhere?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. And we've had these conversations as candidates in our candidate meetings as well. A lot of what you see on all the very large, lot of text-based posters and such listing accomplishments, but those accomplishments would not have been possible without the 2017 trust fund.
Okay.
So you have people claiming success on projects executed by the NRPB with Dutch money that they kicked the previous government out for accepting. It's a little weird to me. Maybe not to anybody, well, to Nelly too, I think.
Now we in the house, you have Mr. Blaise.
Yes,
sir.
Nelly in the house, back in the house. Nelly, since the last interview, how you, because I feel like you come back tonight, you say inside the cold, and I watching the next government if I could send you Holland.
I thought I would come back and feel more comfortable, but you guys put me trained to be the Minister of Plenipotentiary. feeling cold in here.
Yeah, we cold. Well, you know, if you pass your now, by now we see by end of January, you gotta take that plane and go. Okay.
I'm willing to make the sacrifice for this party because I know what it's going to do for this country. Yes.
So then we see the last time we talk a lot about sport,
Yes.
and you know, we had other candidates didn't want to touch the sport certain position, and you today, when you see the situation, the courts and them, and we have our government minister say, okay, this going on, this with them. Do you feel with a government PFP, you guys would bring sport to a level like St. Martin never had before?
Yes. I always want to talk from a place of experience and also research. One thing that I can say for sure from my experience is that I was born and raised here, and I went through the system of sports here on the island, and I know there's drastic improvements that are needed.
Yeah.
One thing that PFP stands for is structured sports education and also opportunities for our student athletes. We have a member on the party by the name of Marvio Cooks, who is revolutionizing the sports structure here, especially with basketball. He is the vice president, I believe, president of SIBA, and he's bringing that Olympic Federation professionalism here on the island.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that when you read our manifesto, that we are prioritizing youth development and we're making sure that there's opportunities such as improving the facilities and also giving those opportunities for our youths to develop further in sports.
The thing where you see a lot, a lot of times people like to point to Curacao. Oh, they're baseball players, they're, world renowned. They have so many of them already in Major League Baseball. How did they get there? Why can't we get there? And I think a large part of it is discipline, first of all. Development of coaches, second of all. Because just because you can swing a bat doesn't mean that you can necessarily coach. You understand? And there's a reason people go to schools to learn how to be a coach. It's also a matter of safety. You make sure that the coaches you have around your student athletes and your young athletes they're appropriate to have around them. So Marvio, in his work with SIBA, has focused a lot on, especially basketball, structuring it in such a way that the kids have, score rankings, they have their data on their performances. He does a lot of work too with Performance Sports Academy with Omar Bobatui, or what the program that he's built there. And it's up to a government to support those types of programs with, of course, a structure, whether it's a subsidy structure or anything, and then make sure that you develop your athletes appropriately. I think here a lot, especially on that side, you get a sort of, we need an instant gratification type of approach, but it doesn't work like that anywhere in the world. It takes time. Curacao said, okay, we're going to bring in coaches from the Dominican Republic. We're going to set it up and pair them with our people here, and we're going to push and see where this can go. But it was from the very beginning, there was a structure. Structure like a bad word on St. Martin sometimes.
And to piggyback off of that, having qualified coaches, making sure that they have the certification in order for them to coach and guide our youngsters, and the referees as well, making sure that they're certified as well. When I was growing up, I wish that I had qualified coaches that could teach me, because I know I had a high basketball IQ. I didn't have the physical capabilities, but if I had,
physical capability, what he means is he was too sharp.
please, don't expose me like that. If I had a qualified coach that could instill those values and could, draw up a play for me and said, hey, this is how you can use your brains in order for you to beat these persons with these physical capabilities, I believe that I would have been maybe, a D2 basketball player. Not D1,
Nah, you could have gone D1, man. You could have gone D1, man. You could have gone D1.
I gotta manage my expectations,
So, Blaise, when you watch the country now, young people, because we talk about sport. Yes, sport, but sometimes we put sport like, okay, you don't have nothing to do home, do sport. You as a MP, because me, I watching, I don't know what time we're going home January 11, but
30. Well, 4:30 January 12 probably.
no,
We're sleeping in here, man.
Listen, we gotta get KFC, man. So, young, those children, like, we put in sport, modern father, the drop in sport, they don't really come sit down watch the games and then you tomorrow as a MP because I was saying like if you have a PFP government, I don't know who's gonna be your minister or sport, but I believe that man gonna have a serious problem with you if he don't do his job. So how to bring the father and the mother around those players, players, whatever sport they play.
Just before I came here, I was reading one of my youth development plans that I wrote. Youth development, I'm very passionate about. Melissa could tell you whenever I talk about the St. Martin Youth Brigade, my face
That's his
just
activation
shines.
word, yeah. That's his activation.
So I had to say it right now to activate myself. So one thing that I want to talk about is having that support system. That's very important for youth development. And it's very difficult for youths on this island to have that family support because parents are working more than one job sometimes. Most of the times, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And with that difficulty of working two jobs, it's very hard for those parents to actually come to every game or even one game. So let's start from that issue. Something that is very important in youth development is making sure that we have a plan on how we're going to integrate the relationship of parents and their children. What is a positive relationship that we can plan or structure or have some kind of policy where, hey, these are the appropriate behaviors that we want to see in our youths and how are parents going to contribute to that. So if you want to see good behavior in your youth, or if you want to make sure that they're developing in the right way, we need to make sure that the parents also are showing that example. But we need to facilitate that lifestyle for those parents and make sure that they have the needs and capabilities in order for them to strive and work towards that.
And I think that's what you see. Like if you look at our manifesto, it's if you don't fix the money, nothing else is going to get fixed. When you talk about addressing the cost of living, you talk about establishing what a living wage. I was speaking to a friend of mine who used to work for 3 very popular restaurants on the island, on the Dutch side. And I said, many of the staff are on minimum wage. And they said every single one. Okay. Every single one. But even though, it's been increased, is it enough? What do you need? Because there are people who are here making, 4,000 guilders a month, 3,000 guilders a month, and still having issues making ends meet. And if that's when they by themselves. If they have a partner, sometimes it's a little easier, if you're a double income household, but then you add children to the mix and we back at square one again. So I think we've tried to look at, well, it's nice to talk about sports, it's nice to talk about all these things and ideas, but you first have to start at the root of the issue, which is what prevents parents from coming to games and such. And I think too, when you have a structure and you have organizations that have a plan around the development of their sport, it could be that, maybe they're live streaming each game. I also play basketball in high school, the same physical challenges as Nelly, I was shocked. But I with my father, with his job, he couldn't come to every game, but there were people taking pictures, taking video. And so he had an opportunity to at least see, okay, well, she says she's playing basketball, she actually is playing basketball.
Okay. And to take it a little deeper, I'm sorry to cut you
off.
And can we also instill courses for our parents to something that is changing, especially in our modern society? You need to understand what kids are going through, how to ensure that they have the appropriate necessities in order for them to develop. And I think that we need to implement courses in order for our parents to start raising our kids to the standards that they need to be at.
I was gonna say my first question, but then go ahead.
Before we leave sports, on the friend side, it costs a lot of money for the parents to put their children in different activities, and the government, the French government, France, and the national level gives it's nothing much. It's 50 euro for them to discover a sport.
Yeah.
And I guess that's enough to pay for a month. Is there a plan? Because we know on that side they don't get financially. It's like the friend side. Is there a plan to put? I don't know even if you pay for the sport activities. I don't know how it works on the side, but can you explain if how would you help them financially with the
I
if they
think
will have.
I think for certain income levels, that we have talked about, maybe there needs to be like a small subsidy kind of, if it's possible, because again,
Yeah,
if there's no money, nothing is possible.
exactly.
But there are a lot of great organizations as well that collect, whether it's donations from visitors. You have a lot of tourists that like to give, especially those that have been coming 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Their families have been coming, they own a timeshare or so. They have been given to just kind of stimulate that interest, and to be able to give young people the opportunity, because the equipment is 90% of the battle.
Yeah.
And it can be pricey, and locally here too, not everything is available. So maybe you got to order something special and such. So I think you have those organizations that are already doing it. And what we believe as well at PFP is, if the wheel is in there already, you don't have to reinvent it. It's government is a facilitator, so they have to be able to help facilitate these organizations, and not try to just grab the project and take. That's just a photo op. Yeah.
And to follow up
That's
on
where
that, something that's very important for us to talk about right now is ESG, environmental social
Mhm.
governance. And for companies, that's very important. And each company here, well, modern companies should have that on their website. And that's how they're going to contribute to the community. So we have to instill and facilitate, like MP Gumbs just said right now, that those companies commit to their ESG plans,
Mhm.
so that they contribute to the community like how they're supposed to do. And then the second one is Erasmus Plus. This is one of the biggest funds that we have in the European Union. We are a OCT, a over country territory, but we have access to that Erasmus Plus fund, which has hundreds of millions of euros. And that's a way on how we can also fund our sports here on the island if we have the populace that cannot afford it.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. You get the answer?
Yeah, I did.
My question to MP, I think we done with sport now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. MP Gums, with a PFP government, do you guys will do a reform about taxes, the tax reform?
Yeah, a funny thing. So the biggest discussion after we swore in 2020 was COVID, and then the Dutch said, well, we're gonna put everything in this coho, and there's reforms, structural reforms that you have to do. The fun fact is, most of those structural reforms, especially on tax reform, was already a 2019 manifesto.
Okay.
So when it comes to the updated version, we kind of just blew the dust off, and I would have thought that some of the more low-hanging pieces of fruit they would have gone after already, but that maybe they don't like fruit in this government. So I think for us, it starts off with with lowering profit tax. Right now it's at 34.5%. And we actually attended as a party. We went to be across the kingdom of the Netherlands. So they put all the islands, Curacao, Aruba, Borneo, yeah, St. Eustatius, Saba, and St. Martin. Of course, the best islands, because their constitutional relationship is different. They've had a host of tax reform initiatives coming down through the pipeline, and the social minimum as well has gone up now to be more on par with the Netherlands, but that's because of their constitutional setup. But in Curacao and Aruba, it's also changed, and when you look at us, it's just flatline since 2010. There's been nothing done in tax since 2010.
Okay.
You understand? So we've looked at that, and we said, okay, you start at profit tax, because again, I saw that even though minimum wage went up, many other parties started criticizing, because, well, what about the employers, etc. And I think employers have something to answer for as well, because just because there's a minimum wage doesn't mean you have to pay it. That's a choice that you make, and Peterson likes to make that very clear. But also, I can understand that if maybe profit tax were lower, they would be more inclined to invest more in their business. You understand? Which would then be invested in their employees. So we've looked at that. We've also looked at pension. Pension is an income, so it has to be taxed because it is classified as an income, but maybe we can adjust the rate at which it is taxed, and there has to be education in the population as well to inform them that your pension is not meant to be the be all end all.
Okay.
This is something I said last election too. We have to start getting to a point where it's not just a workshop for what is essentially middle class persons already. You have to go down in the depths of the population and say to persons, this is how you prepare for life after working.
Yeah, and I just came from one of the meetings with the General Audit Chamber, and they did an audit or research of some sort, where they went and researched if it was fair, the tax system that we have here on the Dutch side, and it was not fair.
Okay.
So that's something that we have to consider, that if our tax system is not fair here on the Dutch side, we need the reforms. And something that PFP also researched together with BDO is the user friendliness of the platforms for the tax system.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that we transition towards technology in order for us to have more accessibility for our populace to, understand the tax system, and more courses in order for them to know, okay, what sort of taxes do I need? What are taxes? What can I invest in?
Yeah.
Is there some sort of tax? Because you cannot live off of your pension when you get to an older age. So if you understand, okay, I can invest in and maybe getting a company pension or something like that, or getting a pension from one of the pension companies, maybe this can help, to balance the tax, supplement the taxes that I'm getting from the government as well. So it's very important for us to make that information accessible, and having a platform where you can, reach those documents is very important.
Guys, when I listen to you guys, MP just say since 10, like nobody touch tax reform, nothing.
Yeah.
So what they were doing?
Dropping governments.
Okay. Next question.
Shots fired again.
It's not. I mean, is it a shot? It's the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Jeanette?
And the truth does hurt. So yeah.
You said about the elderly. You talk about no, user friendly,
Yes.
online, everything. What about the elderly and all of this? Because as much as we use internet and we put it user friendly,
Yes.
some of the elderly are like, nah.
I think that's a cultural. I think that's a cultural gap. And I had the same, because before I got elected, I used to work at UTS, no flow, and I remember the frustration of coming from Holland, where at any age they know what they're doing with their phone. They know how to put credit on their phone. They know how to surf and stuff. And then coming down here and encountering persons, not even elderly, 50 years old, just refusing to learn how to put a top up from a scratch card. And I think that's a cultural thing that we have to start changing, because, you have foundations in the community pushing about, for example, Alzheimer's awareness. And I think people should be able to make the link. The more you learn and continue to learn, the older you get, your brain stays sharper. You can fight off the possibility of Alzheimer's or dementia. You can prolong it if it's in your genetics, but people don't really seem to want to learn. And I think, we talk a lot about us in PFP as well about lifelong learning. I also have had to work with persons that are over a certain age. And I say, it's good to stay sharp on these things, not just for yourself, but if you have grandchildren, you know better how to protect them when they're online. You know what they should and should not be doing when they're online. So it's also trying to encourage everybody to kind of raise their awareness about that. And I think sometimes we hear no and we just kind of back off and leave it at that, like, they're too set in their ways. No, sometimes you have to push a little bit. I was like, even my own parents, I'd be like, listen, I'm gonna teach you how to do it, because I'm not driving to French Quarter every other day
how many
to
times
do this thing on your
how many times you have to do it? How many times you have to teach them? Because
at least twice, but it's okay.
twice.
It's okay. It's okay to you gotta repeat it maybe 2-3 times, but after the third time, I say on your own.
So PFP, we just see minimum wage going up. I don't know if it's a campaign promotion. You guys not tell me. With a PFP government, how you guys would handle the minimum wage going up?
I think minimum wage going up, for me, I think once it is done correctly, because, 2019, we had some funny stuff happening with money that was not done correctly. But, I think once it was done correctly, it's good. It's a good thing for people. For us, though, the focus remains on first establishing, like I mentioned earlier, a poverty line and what is a living wage. The problem we have, and not problem, benefit of being essentially two different setups on one land mass, is a lot of times in Parliament, people point to the French side and say, oh, but look. And I'm like, well, there's a different relationship happening over there. The same thing now with Sabre, Statia, and Bonaire. So I think for us, first establishing that poverty line through, again, research, because The census did, they told us that 1 in 4 households lives on 1,650 guilders a month. Okay, but is that the poverty line? Because again, you have people making 3,000 guilders that are also still struggling. Teachers, that are, better paid than that, but still struggling. So what actually constitutes, being poor in St. Martin? What constitutes not being able to meet your basic needs? And that's shelter, food, internet, because that's classified as a necessity now. You understand? GB, electricity. So that once you can meet those things, then the rest is just confetti, basically. It's just, cherry on the top. But I think that goes hand in hand again with telling people, I've we live in a society where we like a lot of excess. We like, nice things. People have been asking me when you upgrade your car, and I'm like, the car is still driving. I will upgrade the car when the chassis fall off as I'm driving through one of our lovely roads. So I think also too that's a part of the education. Not that so and so bring down a new model and everybody rushes to go get it because it might be affordable. No. Nobody. For me, before I even got this car, I had a 12-year-old Corolla.
Okay.
Because you can't buy it twice.
Yes, exactly.
So we see government have like how we call it, like satellite based entities like GB, the port, airport. With a PFP government, how you guys, because we see the bubble, how we don't say between those things, the bubble. So with a PFP government, how you guys will manage those satellite government have share the city?
Nelly Hopper, he just come fresh out of corporate governance training.
Yes.
So.
Okay, let's go there.
So I think it's very important for us to understand corporate governance and why the necessity of separation of powers. So you have the shareholder, you have the supervisory board, and you have the management board. Whenever you have a supervisory board, with the shareholder, which is St. Martin, it's important for them to find competent persons who are going to be part of the supervisory board. All of these companies have articles of incorporations, and those articles of incorporations have the rules and regulations of who are supposed to be sitting on supervisory boards. So you have profiles such as HR, law, finance, technology, and you have to make sure that you hire those persons that are competent in those fields, and not hire people that are your friends or your family.
Okay.
Once the friends say government.
Once you establish those principles, then you can have, the shareholder is supposed to have a vision where the supervisory board guides the management board to execute that vision. So once you understand those structures, that's the pathway of creating, a sound body that will enable that company to achieve its goals. And then something that was discussed in the meeting with the General Audit Chamber is that in the Netherlands, the General Audit Chamber has the ability to audit the government-owned companies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I never talked with PFP about. Yeah. You can shoot it down because you're the party leader.
No. Look, we have been from even before coming into Parliament. I've read the General Audit Chamber's reports. Over the years. One of my main focal points in the beginning as well was their report on BTP. Bureau of Communications and Post, and they have tried to kind of get information to be able to do reports on the government related entities. It can be tough, getting information at all. But definitely, I think, we from a governance perspective, there's a lot that we leave to be desired, and there's a lot that can be done. And it's not, it's so funny because I remember we were being given a presentation where after the corporate governance kind of research was done, it was the suggestion is being floated, to make certain changes in the composition of like the airport holding board and such. And one of my colleagues, who will remain nameless, essentially said, "Yeah, but that just sounds like corruption." And I have to turn around and be like, it's so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, but it's not. This new structure will actually stop the actual corruption that your party's been a part of for quite a while.
So MP, we see campaign start. We see people. That's me, I talk so people beating the chest. I come up with laws. you ain't come up with no law.
Mhm.
What's your solution?
Amendment,
You
yeah.
as MP, you sit down in Parliament for years.
Yeah.
Tonight, can you explain why PFP didn't propose laws or
Yeah.
law things?
Most parliamentary democracies,
Mhm.
the laws do not come from parliament. We
Okay.
can make laws because of our authority to approve them when they come from government. We are co-legislator with government.
Okay.
And it's cute because since the UTS law 2018, the MP that beats their chest about legislation has not had a single positive advice from the Council of Advice on any initiative. And it's very simple. MP Peterson explains it quite well because he himself is a lawyer. But even as an actual lawyer, he will tell you in Dutch is wetgeving. Legislative writing is so technical that you have to leave it up to the people who have the expertise in house, which is government. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting these advice from the Council of Advice. It says, and it's also a drain on resources. If you're sending subpar quality work every minute, they then have to take weeks to review your subpar quality work and then make suggestions, and then it comes back to pal. So you can brag about it or whatever, but the reality is our main task is holding government accountable. So I would actually say if those MPs can say that they have done so,
Okay.
because they bring somebody back on crutches to save their minister.
I mean, there's even more things that PFP did. The cut.
Yeah.
That was an initiative that the PFT.
And we didn't even
brought
have to do
forward.
that because I sent a request to the prime minister last year. I said, would you consider changing the election decree to take the curtain from the voting booth? She responded in December last year. Then we didn't really hear anything again. Then I sent a follow up in February. In March, I said, you know what? Let's pay a legislative lawyer to write the national decree that would make the amendment and just send it as a suggestion. National decrees are not our realm, you understand? So it was just a suggestion. In the end, it went through the vetting process, and bada beep, bada boop, it was published, signed, and published, and the curtain, is scheduled to come down.
What are going to change? Okay, because
Listen,
okay,
you gotta take baby steps now. You gotta take baby steps. And as somebody who saw somebody sell their vote in front of me last election in Belvedere, yes, I can say that it will change a lot because the thing that facilitated that particular vote to be sold was the curtain being there. You understand? The voting booths the polling stations all say no phones allowed. But behind that curtain is your phone, the ballot, and God. You understand? So I say, you have to start somewhere. And P. Heiliger Martin suggested too, maybe we barcode the ballots to protect even further, from corruption. But the number one thing is also education. For example, the case regarding embezzlement and bribery and whatever from the causeway.
Yeah.
It was about 4 million that into tenure, right? I ain't gonna call no names. 4 million. The COVID loans were also 4 million, roundabout there, dollars. You see, so I think people need to start seeing the dollars and cents behind what has been happening, behind selling their vote to put in people who would do such things to them with their money and then turn around and say, and cost the Dutch because we got to take loans. Because in the past, we had people who spend it like it was, as they say, we champagne on a Coca-Cola budget. So, yeah.
Anyway, MPM Blaise, agriculture, because his campaign for the 4 years you guys as MP receive people who's in agriculture. What's the next move with PFP? Because right now everybody talking about agriculture.
Yeah.
What's a government PFP?
So, well, we talked a bit about how to approach it, and I think for me, I had to lean on Angeline and my discussions with her for how collectivity does it. Essentially, you have your cooperative, you have your ex center, and I think it again structure.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. Right now, you have persons operating in silos, and I think you have to bring them together to first see what is possible, because land is scarce on an island, but it doesn't have to be land. You have there's a company now on the Dutch side, Yellow Sage Farms. They are now using container farming, which is it's really great. It's revolutionary. I saw the videos recently. It's actually a very good project. You have to start transition to maybe we have a lot of empty buildings. Maybe some need to be repurposed. Maybe we can do indoor farming. When I lived in the Netherlands, you had whole warehouses that were being converted to grow certain types of greens and such, to sustain, pockets of the population. I once asked a farmer last election, how much would you need to feed 25% of us? And they were like, 10 acres.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me, no way we got it.
So that means you have to do some.
Yeah, you have to find ways to supplement as best as possible. And also, I think, incentivize local shops to purchase locally.
Yeah. So, yes,
But you leave
agriculture.
me ask a question.
Yeah.
But go ahead, continue with agriculture.
We talk about agriculture, the food, we import most everything.
Mhm.
How you guys watching the control? And because we like to blame the inspectors, we blame whatever, but government, what's the role of government about those stuff coming in? Sometimes they expire, they stay on the shop, people buying them, and are gonna jump into the health issue. We see cancer, we see all kind of sickness. PFP was a vision about food control. I put the two of them together.
Nelly looking at me because I love to say we gotta start controlling better.
Yeah, I think having better controls whenever we get in shipment of foods, I think we can control the prices as well.
Okay.
If we establish policies on, if we have a basic needs for people that has the finances to purchase these products, I think we need to establish, okay, from the get go, whenever we're receiving these products, how are we going to tax it, and how are we going to think about our society, and if it's feasible in order for us to do such taxes, and further from there, when you're talking about health, prevention is one of the cures that we don't think about, and having exercise, eating healthy, these are things that we should consider in order for us to prevent certain ailments from happening to us in our society.
Yeah.
And that also reduces costs when we're thinking about healthcare.
You think I don't watch this?
You have, you have the word, you have the flow, but
We talk about agriculture.
Yeah.
But before you even reach to agriculture, I think environment plays a big role on how we move forward with agriculture, anything else. What is PFP plan? Because don't worry, I've been doing my little research. What
you have
is
the
PFP?
manifesto too.
Yeah, what is PFP plan for environment? Because last time, Nelly, you said it was a big, yeah, you have a lot to say.
Yeah.
So please tell me.
Well,
No, you.
it's essentially, how do I say without
A simple word.
a simple word?
Yeah.
No, hit the pause button
Okay.
on
No.
all this pouring of concrete.
No, good you.
Yes.
I think what we lack is proper spatial planning. And it's funny that it's being talked about now, but I asked in a meeting where the minister was presenting the draft spatial management policy, spatial planning policy. Well, are you planning to pause large scale commercial developments, at least for a period of time, to finish this plan and actually roll it out and have stakeholders, weigh in on it and such. Because for me, if continuing development while spatial planning, that's like painting the house while they putting down the block still. And Anguilla did it, 2005 or 2007. They paused, large scale development for I think 24 months or so. So it's possible. It's not like it's impossible. And the answer was no, we didn't consider that. I say, oh, okay, but you have now a scenario where I even while being an MP, I said, let me also personally kind of improve, latent skills that I had. So last year I got my captain's license.
Okay.
And sometimes I captain for Nature Foundation, to help and just to help out. Okay. And now what you have in the lagoon is that the runoff from hillside construction is flowing silt and other such debris into the lagoon, which is polluting the floor of the lagoon, which is already like sludge. But not only that, raising it so that if your boat have a certain draft, and she could have come in last week, after some heavy rains, maybe this week she can't come in again. And so then what happens? You got to dredge. Does government have money to be dredging? Or are they going to push the other companies whose bread and butter is the lagoon to dredge? You understand? So those are the type of things that we talk about, where we say we have to come to some harsh realities in this country, to say that we have to hit the pause button on many things. And it's not to say that it's never gonna come back, that we're never gonna have another development, but sometimes it's good to focus on quality rather than quantity, even in the amount of buildings you have.
I was even like I told another candidate before. Um, the way of building does when Americans come here, when tourists come here, they like the French side where the buildings on the French side because it's very still Caribbean touch with the
Yeah.
shutters, with the whatever do you call them, those wooden
Yeah.
windows and what's. Can you all in the government put a policy, whatever in place to say, well, okay, you can build, but it's supposed to respect a certain aesthetic, you
We
know?
could have done that. Yeah, we could have done that long time ago. Saber did it. Saber has it. That's why every house got the same color, the same
Same design.
same design, same
Yeah.
color.
Well, it's not too late.
Yeah, it's not too late. But again, those are I think also cultural things that as a people we've come so far, and you have to start talking about them, and nobody ever wants to talk about them. So we talk about them quite often.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to have an inclusive environment where we're thinking about our people. We're asking them questions on how would you like to see St. Martin develop. MP Gums just said we need to put a pause button.
Yeah.
But personally, I can tell you of things that we can already start doing. So I volunteer with the St. Martin Coastal Cleanup where we do scuba diving and we go under the sea to take out plastic debris
Okay.
and also Hurricane Irma debris.
Mhm.
So I think that's, of course, scuba diving is an expensive sport. It's an extreme sport, but you also have snorkeling where you can go in the water to take out plastic. And those are simple things that we can instill or campaign that we can incorporate together with having fun and also, taking out pollution out of our water. So I think we have to develop a curriculum where we're thinking about an inclusive society that is thinking about the environment and being custodians of the environment as well. I
Yeah.
worked on a paper that is published in an academic journal where I wanted to instill where educators are being ambassadors of environmental awareness so that they can teach it to the kids so that when they grow up they're thinking about the environment as they grow up, as they develop, so that we have people that are mindful about the
Yeah.
environment. So I think it's very important that we start to instill those awareness campaigns on how to build efficiently and effectively in collaboration with the environment.
MP with a PFP government. PFP government. I have a question for that's the last question. I have a before last question. The hospital. The hospital.
Yeah.
Since before last government, we see we have money problem. Do you guys have a solution?
I can tell you, like I tell most people, when it comes to the hospital, when it comes to GB and such, and it relates to money, I don't necessarily trust the information I've been getting from government as a member of parliament,
Okay.
and as unfortunate to say so. It's a little embarrassing, actually. But when you don't have that trust,
Mhm.
I can only say that, our goal is definitely, if, once that manifested in government, there's at least a 1 to 2 month review period to see what is the actual reality of where we are at on many of these projects. The persons have come to us about the hospital, about GEBE, about other at the airport, and you're hearing certain responses. You're getting certain very political responses sometimes, so you can never see where exactly the truth is lying. And I think for us, I rather be able to have the proper information, and I don't know if I have it.
So, Janet, because before you say conclude,
Yes, you know you got a problem. So I see everybody's mentioning GD. But
Mhm.
what is the plan? Because I see no one is saying, okay, it's like the baby no one wants to touch. Like,
Yeah, it goes back to what I said. I'm like, I don't know if I could trust,
mhm.
the information that we're getting, because even so after the ransomware attack, you know, everybody was kind of, well, you hear what happened? And then I said, what was going on? Nobody's calling a meeting. So we called in the Minister of Rami at the time for a question hour. He came, he answered the questions. And then that was it. And then we called back in another meeting. After that meeting, he run and he leave the prime minister, stand up and take the shot for it.
Okay.
And even then, 1 minute, 90% of the data is recovered. Then 60%, then 75. Then the other 3 months ago, it was 100% or close to 100%. And now we're back to maybe 75. It's aggravating to have to say that as a sitting member of parliament. But the thing is with me, we're very honest people. I rather tell you I actually don't know than to say than to try to come up with something out of my out of thin air. But in terms of a plan for GB, it goes back to what Nelly was saying about governance. In 2021 when they were putting in the supervisory board that was there at the time of the ransomware attack, we asked questions about why those persons, because the Corporate Governance Council said in their advice, you're not meeting, there's too many people of the same competency. Like what Nelly was speaking about in terms of the profiles. You don't have a legal, you don't have anybody in HR, you don't have anybody, no finance expert. So what's the plan? And we said that. And when you check, like you get a lot of blowback about the PFP don't care about young professionals and they don't want them to advance, they don't want them on boards. That's not the case. But one thing we're not about is just putting you there for putting a young professional there's sake. And that's the difference. There's competencies for a reason, and I think we also have to face reality. Like it's kind of like, being from here or being young is not a qualifier. It's not a qualification. You have to put the right people that can drive the organization forward. And I think until we start to be honest with each other about that, it's gonna be really tough.
We see young people, young Saint now, when you want to buy a piece of land, I'm not saying a car because you go to the bank,
you get it in a hot minute.
Yeah. Land. How do you guys have a plan, or do you guys think how your candidate was talking about the banks, everything? So, but when you go to the banks, it depends on your salary. It depends if your uncle working in the bank, if your mother working in the bank, you could get the loan to buy a piece of land for a house. How do you guys see as PFP the access for youngs in now to have access to buy a piece of land or buy a house? Because when you watch the price of land, not so it more expensive than you guys on the other side. So we don't understand why the banks and them, do parliament or government have a say for, like, I don't say you're gonna sell a piece of land to all the St. Martiners because you don't have enough land. But how you could facilitate for young people to have access to
I think we believe the focus, first of all, like you say, there's a finite amount of land. And we've had these conversations as well, and it's again very open, very honest, that there's a finite amount of land. And I think the shift needs to move now towards how we're going to maximize the potential of that land. There's been a couple talks in when we've had meetings about the VRAMI committee with this, that we need developments that go up, and which is fine and understandable, but how are you building them? Are they going to be affordable? Can locals actually buy them? Because I don't have no problem with you building, whether it's apartment complexes or so, because I think what people fail to realize is that the dream of everybody owning a piece of land with a house and a yard is not possible.
No.
It's not possible. But nobody ever wants to say it. Nobody ever wants to say it. The minister gets up and says, every young man should own a home and have a yard with his family and stuff like that. Big man, not everybody got to buy land in Oyster Pond. Understand? So I think you have to also try to find talk to people about the reality of where we're living in. So it needs to shift to that. Even when you think about maybe we may need to build another school in the future. Maybe we might need to build. They talk about performing arts center. Many people, I would love to see that. Where? And those are the questions that I have. You're giving away whatever land is there, but we need to first see what is the inventory of what remains and what is possible, what can we possibly do with it, to make sure that, we're housing people, but also there's, in case you got to put a school somewhere else, then South you are, that there's a possibility to do so.
So we could fit the traffic.
And I think a vision, one of my future five that I have in accessible housing programs for St. Martin and I'm part of um, a young professional program where if you're not a owner of land or owner of a home and you meet a certain requirement, so if you have the income, if you have the job, that you can go together with other young professionals and buy a property, which will decrease the cost. And also, you own your own property. So not only that you're buying a house, but you're renting.
Yeah.
So at the same time, you're earning and you're not just paying back. So I think it's very important that we instill that as a nationwide program where you're also learning about getting income and not just paying
Spending,
and
yeah.
spending. So increasing your purchasing power. So I think that's something that is a vision that I have for my future five, and I would like to build upon a policy
Yeah.
or ordinance where we can give that accessibility and opportunity for young St. Martiners to own, and not only young St. Martiners, but at a certain competency.
Last question. You have a last question?
Yes.
Because the
Today,
man with grill just walking.
he just walking.
Yeah.
That is my uncle here. Leave me. Get away with
Let's
it.
go.
Today I find out something, right?
We wasn't home.
Yes,
That's why.
we was in
Oh,
town
no.
to find out something.
Yeah.
I have a friend who wants to open a business, and she went to inquire about it. And they tell her, well, if you have a job, you can't get a business license or some story like that. And she like,
What?
she have to put it up somebody who don't have a job name.
I've
Huh?
never heard that in my life.
So now I say I have to ask that question because that's the weirdest thing to me. I like
I have to ask the former minister of theatre about that.
because she went to
When I
get
see
it,
her later tonight,
Yeah.
I'll
she
ask
went to
her.
get she went to two different persons who
Yeah.
wanted the same thing. And I'm like, I say I have to ask that question.
Yeah.
because-
No, I'll
Okay,
I'll
so
have to
no,
ask the former minister of theatre.
Yeah, but
Okay.
for the farm, you have to leave that question because you're gonna be the fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna set up that question for
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So MP, that's for PFP. January 11 at this hour, if I'm not mistaken, you guys supposed to start to see the votes coming in.
Some kind of the smaller, at least maybe the prison would have been counted.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
first one that going to need fast. And tomorrow, I don't know you MP Gumbs if you're gonna be prime minister or member of parliament. You never know. We never know. And you see how you see working with friends side? Do you see just come 11 and we 11 of November we come we drink champagne
Yeah.
and with one island, one people, the 12 we go back, deal you with your business, I deal with my business.
Yeah.
A government PFP, how you guys, I'm not saying you're going to work only with French Quarter, but you need to tell me.
Well, that's where we gotta start. I mean,
Well, let's go.
no, I think we actually have been pushing for that from since we swore into parliament. Building cooperation with the collectivity to see where we can actually cooperate. We talk about traffic, for example. And one of the biggest contributors to that is the amount of cars on this island. And I think what has been happening in the past is you got dealerships that maybe go Harbor, Point Blanche, then they say, well, what price can you give me? Then they go here on the French side, what price can you give me? And then there's a back and forth, and then either way it coming in. So I think collaborating on, regulating and better controlling stuff like that, and stop seeing each other as competitors and actually as collaborators. That's really what the problem has been. I used to work at Maho when you had big war between one side tourist office, other side tourist office, but you have to come to a point where we say, you know what, we are sharing a landmass. There is no actual border. So there has to be certain controls in place that match on either side. So we've pushed for that from Parliament. In 2020, everybody was screaming, well, you got to close down the border, stop the trucks from going super U. I'm like, oh, so we're starving people now. That's literally what some of my colleagues have said, on the floor of Parliament. So we've been the voice to say you can't do that. Like, how can you say that? All our bloodlines crisscross across this border. So we've always advocated for that, whether it's in justice, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in tourism and marketing. It's funny because people have been looking at what has been happening over here and saying, well, there's nothing really happening on our side. Can we maybe steal their tourism people to come? And I'm like, you'd have to ask. But I think we have to finally admit that it has to go beyond when we want to punch at France and Holland, that we come together. It has to go beyond that. Because right now that's where it's at.
Yeah.
It's we want to punch at them and say, well, we're still colonies, okay, but then we have to work together to not be.
Yeah.
And it's curious to see how that discussion will go, but it has to start somewhere.
We have Gumbs in that commission, I think, no.
Hmm?
Corporation
I
commission.
mean,
I think they have Gumbs in that commission.
probably.
Janet, last question. Oh, you're good?
You're good.
Okay.
Save my questions for the fourth.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the fourth, yeah. Guys, Mr. Blaise, why people should vote for you January 11? Let us know why, especially some people from up St. Peter's.
So one thing that I always want to start with is my patriotism for this country. When I was 13 years old, I won a bronze medal for this island. I was part of the national judo team. I didn't stop there. I went to the Netherlands and I received a bachelor's in international leisure management and a master's in business administration and team management. So that shows that I have the competencies and not only the sports background. And I want to also mention that I contributed to a lot of initiatives here on the island as well. One of them, which was to incorporate a curriculum of critical thinking and writing your own book. And that's something that I also won a literary award for. So you could see throughout the commitments since I was 13 years old, all the way since now being 32 years old, that I have achieved and I have been committed to making sure that I reach a certain standard and level in my life. And I want to be that representation for the people, especially being the former project leader of the Samarta Youth Brigade. So I'm also thinking about youth development and helping those youth at risk. So you want to have someone in parliament that is thinking about those persons that needs to be uplifted and not just thinking about themselves and actually proved it way before postulating yourself. So this has been my life since I was 13 until now. And that's why you should vote for me.
Guys, that was candidate number 7 from PFP, Blaise Jean Onelli, if I'm not mistaken, Nelly, aka Nelly, from cell
Pronounce it
number
perfect.
7. Okay? Yeah, I changed for that. So, guys, we're going to go to the leader of the party who will tell us why people should vote for her January 11 and why people should go with PFP government. And I say PFP government because we don't know what's going to happen, but PFP government. Yeah, the floor is yours, MP.
And no, I think, I never say vote for me. I say we have a list of 10 competent people who are ready, who have proven over their life, as Nelly just outlined for you, that they are ready to actually take steps to lead this country from an objective perspective that is backed by research, by facts, by critical thinking, and being able to analyze geopolitical situations in a way that benefits the country. I think, for myself, for MP Peterson and Peter Weaver, we've given a level of representation in Parliament that has thrown shots when it had to, that has spoken facts every single time. It's never been about gossip for us. It's never been about name calling for us. It's been about holding a government accountable to the things that they asked for a 4-year mandate to do and have not actually done. And I think when people go out on January 11th, and I do also urge them to go out because people are frustrated. They don't want to vote. They're tired of voting, and I understand it 100%. If I wasn't running, I can't say that I would not vote, but ultimately I would because this is a right that people have had to fight for. It's not a God-given right. It's not given by any God, any universe, whatever. It's something that people have had to fight and bleed for in some instances. So I urge everybody to go out to take that step and choose your representatives carefully because you're stuck with them for 4 years. And we see what has happened with that. Because again, I say, stability at what cost? You'll be stable in the ICU, but you're still in the ICU.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, that was Gumbs Melissa, Member of Parliament and leader of PFP, candidate number 1. So tonight, before we go, we have to wish those people